Hello everyone, welcome back to the Austria Cup 2025. Round of 16 still going on with some great matches we have seen lately. You've seen a recent matchup as well between Indonesia and Kazakhstan going 5-2 for Indonesia. We recently just had a great match between China and Russia with a great rivalry, and this time it's another match here, Austria and Singapore. The gap with seedings is massive, and although on paper you wouldn't see the seedings be so separate with teams like these, it's exciting to see the possibilities on a pool like this. I'm Sad Shiva, joined by the lovely Doomsday for this matchup.
What's up, Shiva? It's nice to be on. I've actually had the pleasure of casting these two in the groups already, so I've had an idea of how they can do so far from the casting booth, and both have had tough fights to get through the groups. Singapore, of course, coming from the lower bracket. They got second place in their group, and it was pretty tight down there. They had the likes of Japan and Hong Kong to deal with in their group, and navigated those very well, but it was an absolute slog down there for them. So they've come out here with some battle scars. Austria, coming from the upper bracket, they had a very tough group though. Very tough group. Even despite them being, I guess, one of the more informed teams coming into this tournament, they did end up in the lower half of their groups, but honestly, they took 3 points off of China, which really is all you need to know about this team. These guys are not to be messed with, and have already put out some amazing scores so far.
I definitely agree. I think Austria has probably one of the craziest resurgencies of a team I've ever seen. You know, going from a team that struggled to qualify, now suddenly looking at mid-seeding in the qualify stage, despite maybe not having the best fortunes with their group, putting up a fight against a team like China, who we just saw make gargantuan performances previously in group stage and in this match against Russia. It's really exciting prospect for this team to see how well they fare against a team like Singapore, who we always tend to spot making it in the US World Cup. They're always a regular team. They're very consistent at this level, and maybe that is where they're going to be able to shine and maybe sneak in a potential win and seeding upset here against Austria.
Yeah, we'll see. This is the pot, the round of the tournament where they are at their peak. This is the peak of their power. So if they're going to be beating like a team like Austria, it will be now. I feel like Austria is a team that honestly probably benefits more from a harder pool. Some of their players benefit from that skill cap, but they have those side players, those gimmick players, and those veterans that can really drag you through an early stage matchup as well. So they do have the tools to navigate a strong early game team like Singapore. I am more curious about the bans though, considering I think the strengths in these two teams are very divergent. Austria like their mechanics a lot. Singapore like their control and gimmick a lot. And I think the Austria ban does reflect that with the no mod tech map ban, their step by step.
Yeah, I think for me, no mod is generally speaking what seems to be the territory of Singapore, aside from that no mod 2 mechanical map. Generally speaking, Singapore very well rounded in those normal skill sets, generally quite solid on the gimmicky maps. Hidden and reading is a minor question mark for me, because I noticed in qualifier results, both of them seem to have struggled slightly in a degree, where Austria did have that one superstar carry in Tepi Fangirl being the main kind of a demon in that skill set. However, aside from that, the rest of the team really struggles. So it's a very 50-50 gambly stake when it comes to those reading maps, but generally, control-y based gimmick is definitely something that Singapore will be favored on that. Generally speaking, a very good control alt and tech team, and also just solid all around. I'd say Singapore are a very flexible team. They're very decent at everything, very much a jack of all trades in a way, but having that spike ceiling on certain skill sets like that No Mod 3 and No Mod 4, and maybe even No Mod 5 here in Glider Piling, is one of those things that you tend to look out for here if you're Singapore. The DT1 ban coming from them is very surprising to me when, although it being much more comfortable, you have other clear mechanical maps that could be in your fear factor, but maybe the DT1 type of ceiling where it's aimy with some bursts and some peak streams here and there are actually the thing that they would rather not deal with, and more deal with more easily aimable stamina patterns. We've seen them do decent on No Mod 2 in qualifiers, and generally speaking on some of those simpler tapping maps, and with No Mod 2 coming out for Austria, this is one of their bread and butter picks.
Yeah, the tapping has been so good for them. I think it took them a while in the group stage to sort of wind up to their peak power level on it, but by the time they got to that third group stage match, they were cooking on the No Mod 2 and the stream maps, and also the DT3, which isn't really like this, but regardless, these guys know how to tap and tap well. This is all tapping all the time as well. 256 bursts into bursts. You listen to the song and you kind of know what to expect with the map, right? It's what you imagine.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a general duality with these teams where one likes to play the gimmick and the other likes to play mechanical skill sets, but I think Singapore are still going to be a team that can threaten some of those maps, especially maps like the Hard Rocks and especially the no-mod maps like this one and the free-mod mechanical maps too. It poses a minor threat for Austria in the early stage of this pool, but there are some maps that Austria definitely seem to be favored on. They have good skills and they have incredible players like Fedoriguz and Z10A who have been particularly standing out on this team to be those strong mechanical carries. But No Mod 2 in their qualifier lobby was an absolute stomp, one of the strongest teams on No Mod 2 Tavern mechanics, and this one, although much more speed heavy, is still up Austria's alley, even if it's less intensive on that simple flow aim. And it does beg the question on whether or not that could be the hurdle that Singapore might be able to jump over, contrary to some of the other picks that you'd see from Austria.
Well, the lineup for Singapore is in for this one. Looking at the ones that sort of played No Mod 2 last time, which was also speed, it's a bit different this time. Tebby played that one, but this time going to be drafting in the old warhorse himself, GS Blank, take his spot.
Oh yeah.
But looking as you were for Austria, though, it's the lineup you would expect for the tap-in. Terrifying roster it is too.
No doubt, yeah. I mean, the mechanical skill ceiling of this Austrian team is really, really high, and that's one of the things that really pushed them up and a cut above many teams that we wouldn't have expected Austria to really outperform in games like qualifiers, but this is one of their reasons why, and they're showing a decent start so far, but Singapore not too far away themselves either, only a single early misstep from Holland is the very beginning, just a minor adjustment period. Accuracy though, not really in the best shape here. Z9A is going to go down first of Austria, and that does bring the combo game in favor of Singapore until that Mr. Kushinaut will reset it back in the hands of the European Austrian team.
Some players just trying to hold on a little bit in these early stages. Trying to warm up to the speed. We'll see if they can get up to speed. They ain't got much time to do it. But a couple breaks here for Singapore as well. We're going to be setting them back further.
Yeah, I think this is absurdly difficult as well on the stamina. Fedoriguz will go down. It's another misstep from Austria, but still two full combos from both teams here, looking to be a big, big tension factor for this match. Starting off, it's 256 BPM. That is seriously fast at this level here. And it's going to lead to another miss early from Kushinaut, even before the big stamina section coming in. Long-term fatigue is really stinging here for the Singaporeans. We still have GS Blank and Saimango to hold the fort as much as they can. It's just that the recoveries here from Austria are so strong. Z9A still basically holding a reverse choke, with Fedoriguz recovering swiftly as well, despite the act deficit. It's 136,000 score in favor of Austria, with the soon-to-be first half completed and the lead gaining to about 150,000. These two FCs here from Singapore still remain spectacular, even despite the shakes, despite the act misses, and despite Kushinaut struggling here immensely on this map. It's those two full combos that really matter here, with Holland who's on a good recovery too, as the halfway mark is eclipsed here. It's, although a good lead, still very capable of going the other side. And there's GS Blank. Not going to be the case, it's shut down.
That's brutal there. It's only Saimango. He's not going to be able to do it alone. The four-way recovery from Austria looking really good. As a team, Austria looking so much more comfortable on this now. Into the harder part of the map now with those longer streams. But regardless, it is looking like in the 4v4 situation, Austria do look much better. And we thought that going into it, right? But that said, though, the individuals in Singapore showing that they can fight back on these tapping picks. It might take a bit more than one big combo from Saimango, and that recovery from Hollow needs to do it.
Yeah, you need a lot more here from the recoveries of Singapore. You've got Kushinaut, who's just unable to really keep up with the rest of the lobby. With Hollands making a good attempt to still on that good recovery. But just Austria as a collective, just clearly so much more comfortable on this map. And that's going to give them, honestly, a very early confirmed lead here. You've got Z10A and Akuma Tenchi still with full combos in their hands, looking to maybe make this a double FC if they can confirm this was the very end. From what I remember, I don't believe there's too much density towards the very end of this map. It's very much just a few spursy patterns here and there with occasional aim. Kumino Tenchi may lose the FC, but Z10A will back it up as long as he doesn't clip up on the very ending bursts. But with nerves, these are absolutely disgusting. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. It will be Z10A to hold it.
Brilliant stuff from Z10A. That's the way you want to start off a match, especially one with so much on the line. It's a brilliant performance there from him. And an even better performance from Simango on the other side with the 97% FC. Stands out for his team. Did everything he could, but unfortunately, Austrian's team consistency on the tapping is a bit too much on this one. We'll see how it goes for the rest of the tapping maps in this pool, but on that one in particular, they did look very strong indeed.
Yeah, solid opening pick here from Austria. Singapore now looking to respond. My guess, considering that you see that no mod 4 being banned out, maybe looking to a no mod 3, maybe even a free mod 3. Looking around that control tech, aim control style is definitely what Singapore are looking out for. But you have other options here. You've got maps like Gladipaling. You've got the Hidden 2 as a potential option if you wish to go into it, even if it's a little coin flippy. Even free mod 1 in non-use could be an option for them. Very much just a matter of how they're feeling on the day.
Definitely the control side will most likely be the angle here. They did super well on the no-mod control maps. You mentioned about that no-mod pool looking pretty good for them. With a lot of control in there, although really, Gladipaling, that map is not one you'd want to rely on really, but certainly no mod 3 could be a potential option. But then again, the free mod pool is always a nice one for Singapore. They've got the mod players to cover the difficulty of those mods extremely well. They've always made good use of it. And there's plenty of maps there that could really abuse Austria. And that's where they're going to go. Free mod 1, non-use.
Yeah, opening up into this. A little bit, a slight unconventional Amy pick, but still very much in that controlling tech aspect here. From what I remember, this is pretty density heavy as well. So it adds that little tag of reading into it, but if you're a normal player who's used to something like this, it's going to be really, really solid for them. Maxed by Kyusu. A really, really good song and a really fun map too. That is still a pretty decent challenge. It's quite snappy, has a few styler patterns here and there, a few linear patterns too. Very much conventional in that Hidden 2 category that we would expect in traditional slot pooling, coming in as a free mod 1 option.
Yeah, on Hidden, you got that AR9 density at relatively high BPM, and the patterning is somewhat awkward with a pretty high, skill ceiling on the mechanics as well. The SR isn't too high at 6.6, but there's still plenty of aim required to deal with this. And the angles it takes can make that density extremely awkward. Hard Rock, of course, just makes those mechanics all the more harder. Singapore have some brilliant hidden players to cover that density side, though. But so do Austria, although their reading players tend to be more on the, the extreme gimmick side, the extreme reading side. They should be able to cover an AR9 aim map reasonably well on the hidden mod, I think.
Yeah, that's the big question that we're going to be asking ourselves here, and whether or not a player like, for example, Tepifango could come in to play this, being one of the superstar gimmick specialists here for Austria. But for Singapore, it seems like a really set lineup here, pretty quickly set and locked in. Tebi, Dawnwings, Mikio, and Eagle coming in for this. If we were to find some means of comparison here on this pool, it would probably be something similar to the Hidden 1 from last qualifiers. Aside from that, though, not really too much of a means of telling how these guys will do. Some different sectors coming in. On top of that, you have to remember that you are going to be having somebody playing that Hard Rock Specialist, and more often than not, more likely it's going to be either a player like, I don't know, maybe even Mikio coming in on the Hard Rock, and it will be the case. For Hidden, it looks like it's going to be Eagle locking in that. But for Austria, I believe it's an overmod. Yeah, double Hard Rock.
Ah, so it is the overmod. I mean, Z9A and Z10A taking the overmod Hard Rock. That sounds about right. That sounds about right. They can make use of that mechanical ability and just get rid of the reading.
Yeah, I mean, Austria are big fans of mechanical Hard Rock maps. And the Z duos are a big fan of maps like these, especially with Hard Rock applied. Fedora Goose coming in as the old reliable no mod carry, with Tomodoy being that filler on the hidden.
Yeah, I think the lineup for Singapore is what they've always ran with as well. Makeo, Hard Rock, and Eagle Hidden is what they ran, I think, the entirety of the group stage. So it's their designated slots, pretty much.
Yeah. So far, so good. Big miss from Eagle. Fedora Goose to exchange. Not the ideal miss you want on that Nomad earlier on. You kind of want that consistent combo to build and build as it stacks up. Although early enough to still not be a too big of an impact, it's going to give the lead to Austria by a decent margin here. Tomodoy with the reverse stroke holding. Dawnwings as well to be in that similar boat. The combat game does go very, very slightly in favor of Austria. Still, either team's fight. We'll be going to a 1/3 section. A little bit more on the linear section. Some sliders coming in too to make things a bit difficult. 1/3 section there will trip up Tomodoy on the hit, and that's a big miss to go down early on. As we build up to next KI time, the Z brothers will go down on the Hard Rock, and that's going to flip the lead to Singapore as the next KI time comes in. Tevi will fall, but Mikio and Dawnwings will still hold strong with Eagle on a solid recovery to boot. Fedora Goose will be the last one to drop for Austria, and it's a full collapse. As Singapore will star ahead. Even if Mikio and Eagle go down, it's still Dawnwings with that combo to push ahead as the spearhead of the boat.
That Ki just claimed the entire lobby, bar Dawnwing. He's been a big player in the group stage, and he's going to be relied on again here. 100k and rising, but no real combo yet on Austria. We are only halfway through. Back into the verse, chorus, flow. Still time for this to switch. Dawnwing making it work.
I mean, the lone soldier going into this. I mean, this combo is still so valuable here for Singapore. Being a big hero, hitting that first key item as well. This accuracy is excellent from Dawnwing. Composed and snappy on these patterns. Tevi may fall, but it's really not the combo that you're looking for Austria if you're trying to bring this back. Recoveries are going in favor of the Austrians, however, and it's 120,000 score, slowly decreasing down here for Austria. Singapore need to build some good recoveries, otherwise Dawnwing's combo, if it goes, could really be disastrous here, as it really is the only thing that's keeping them alive going into this. As the next KI builds up, just before the slowdown.
Yeah, it's getting pretty dodgy here now for Singapore. The Austrians are coming, they are on the way.
Thirds. Big section here that usually defines the map, but everyone hits it.
You like? Eagle with a break, it's another one for Singapore now, and that leads going even faster now to Austria. 40k and closing. Dawnwing can only do so much.
There's only so much Dawnwing can do. Singapore unable to back him up. It's all on Dawnwing, and even then, with excellent accuracy in the full combo down, he will fall overwhelmed by the pressure as Austria's recoveries will smoothly keep them back on track. A good start, a disastrous midway, but at the very end, when it matters more than anything, Singapore crumble to the pressure, and that's going to give Austria the chance to swoop it back under their nose and give them a break point.
Brilliant comeback from Austria. Brilliant recovery after those early drops on that first Ki. Managed to book themselves up and get back on it. 500Ks across the board. The team consistency once again defeating the big one-man carry there. Dawnwing with an amazing attempt, but not to be today. And that is a breakpoint right off the bat here.
Yeah, this is just a rough scenario for Singapore, especially for Dawnwing. I feel for the guy. 771k, leading the entire lobby with astronomically high combo, great accuracy. But the rest of Singapore just could not do a thing. Unable to rebuild any significant combos, aside from Eagle's recovery, which fell not long before Dawnwing missed. And it just leads to an issue with that team collective there, not being able to match up the consistency of Singapore compared to Austria, who despite having initially what was a disastrous four-way collapse, just all as a four-way, just not letting go of that recovery and bringing it back when it mattered a lot, especially with Dawnwing creeping up on them. Had he not missed, that could have changed huge fates, but not this time, as Austria looked to make it 3-0, and the Hard Rocks are both available. After playing a map like that, Hard Rock 1 surely has to be an option considering how many sliders are in this map.
Wouldn't be a bad choice, actually, that Hard Rock 1. It's a map we haven't seen too much of as well. So, you know, it's one that's relatively new territory, one that people have been a bit worried about. Could rock Singapore a bit, but they do have Hard Rock players to cover that. If they wanted to stick to more tapping, there's also the classic Senya satellite double time too, although that one is probably a bit better for Singapore than that No Mod 2 was. Nevertheless, they've got plenty to work with.
Yeah, I know we said that that Paling was going to be an option that Singapore could be considering, but considering how well they're playing on that hard rock, maybe Paling on the precision and the control could be an option, but it's not going to be yet. It's going to be DT2 coming in, going with the old expected maps, like we would say. DT2, Senya Satellite, just the classic that we've come to expect from OWC. Another Satellite Senya banger, and Austria looking to use it as a tool to make themselves 3 points ahead of Singapore.
Gotta keep tap and abuse, keep speed abusing, and if that's what they're comfortable with, why not keep going for it? I imagine you'll be seeing the same roster that played No Mod 2. Generally writes itself, the Austrian roster, on these sorts of picks. Singapore could play about with it a little bit. Could still see a couple swaps, considering GS Blank came in for the No Mod 2, which was a different lineup to what they used in the groups for tapping. But GS Blank back in the lobby again, so it does look like he might be running the same lineup. But with this being a bit slower, it's more about stamina than raw, brute speed. So it's a bit of a different skill set here.
Yeah, indeed. I think stamina being extra heavy, and the DTU general confidence is just going to add a lot to Austria already. Really being a fan of maps like these. When they played the DT2 on their qualifiers, they had a really, really solid team score, notably Z9A with an FC on one of their runs, 900k from Fedora Goose. But aside from that, you've got Z10A, who's very much expected to be a superstar player on maps like these. And it's between Akuma no Tenchi and Fruit Cup to really be in there for the fourth, but it looks like it's going to be Akuma no Tenchi. The ZA brothers, Fedora Goose and Akuma no Tenchi for Austria, with Sign Mango, GS Blank, Kushan, and Holland. Singapore, exactly the same roster as that No Mod 2.
It ain't broke. But we'll see if it pays off again here. I mean, these are always going to be strong picks for Austria, but Singapore, on something like this, should be fancying their chances a bit more than that No Mod 2. We'll see if that comes to fruition, though, on the Senya Satellite Classic.
I think this time what's more important than ever for Singapore is that Q-Shot can try and pull up a decent score at the very least and allow Sign Mango and GS Blank to maybe pull up something like a double FC. Because if that doesn't happen, I think it's just going to be another Austria team difference. On that No Mod 2, we saw Q-Shot struggle a lot as that fourth player syndrome here for Singapore. And if that happens again, it's going to struggle, as this map has very heavily long chains, a lot of stamina. On top of that, some volatile flame on top of it. So if you are unable to really deal with the stamina on the fatigue, it's not as high BPM as that No Mod 2, but still longer on that stamina. That challenges you a lot on 234 BPM. Hollanese is the first to drop here for Singapore, as Austria still with a 4-way full combo after this first PI time.
It's just Hollanese so far. Everyone else holding pretty well. Accuracy on Astronaut looking actually pretty good this time. The whole high 98 looking much more comfy. But at the moment, 4-way FC, man.
Not much you can do. Down goes Fusion on Hollanese. Sign Mango and GS Blank with the same story as the No Mod 2, trying desperately to keep their teams in some sort of favor with those double FCs, but only Z9A to have dropped in that PI time, as the rest of Austria are still soaring through this part. As we get into the tussle section, this is the part where it really gets tested, and potentially a turning point here if Austria are to collapse. A couple axe drops on Z10A, Akuna Tenchi, Fedora Goose will go down, but Akuna Tenchi is popping off, holding strong here, 90% accuracy alongside Z10A, and with Kusha not missing, and with GS Blank missing, that is the coffin sealed for Singapore on this map. Austria with a double FC still intact with great accuracy on top of that. They are going to be ending it off with a fantastic ahead lead of 500,000 with potentially a 3.5 million team score if they keep these accuracies and combos high.
Once again for Singapore though, it's Mango with the only FC on the speed. Again, looking so good, but Austria as a team are so hard to beat on these maps. That's a 3.6 million team score from Austria. It's another demolition on the tapping. Brilliant again from Akuma no Tenchi and Z10A.
Yeah, just like that. Just like No Mod 2, same deal. Z10A and Akuma no Tenchi being the main ones to look at. But even then, still, 700k from Fedora Goose, 600k from Z9A. Great scores regardless of that. And although Kushinot was able to back up a lot more than before, able to put up a good 500k, against a team like Austria, there isn't anything much you can do, especially with GS Black unable to execute that full combo. That's given 3 rounds ahead for Austria. Singapore now desperate for some sort of clarity into this. You've still got options like the 3-3 and normal 3 if you wanted to go into it. If you wanted to continue with the DT, you could go DT3 and Ring. But things are looking scary here for Singapore.
It is a bit, yeah, they really have to be careful with this one. Obviously 3-0 downs, never where you want to be. It could potentially be your last pick, so you really don't want to mess around with this one. Double time 3, I think, would be extremely brave, considering what Austria have done on maps from that slot before. I think that'd be brave. I think they'd be better off picking something, again, either in free mod, maybe the free mod 3 Liar Dancer might not be a bad shot. Or possibly even something like Gascon Cocktail, no mod 3. That one is a bit more on the mechanics side and might benefit Austria a bit better though. Low AR could be a bit of a left field choice, but then that brings Teppy Fangirl on Team Austria into the mix, who on low AR is super consistent. Yeah. It's not a nice place to be for Singapore right now, really.
It's a matter of just not really having any great options, but having a lot of okay options. And all those options, they're not going for any of the ones that we guessed. It's going to be no mod 1. This is risky, especially when you know how strong aim players of Austria they have. They have 2 players in Ziana and T10 who love that hard rock, and hard rock just synonymous with needing aim ability to be good. If the density of this 9.6 isn't overwhelming, which I doubt it is for the Austrian players, this is a scary pick to go into. Very brave. Definitely a coin flip option. I think Singapore just looking into this saying, hey, look, if we can't win this, we're not going to be able to win the series. Get it out of the way now so we have more comfort into the next match, because Austria almost very likely to be able to kill themselves another point, or maybe like a hard rock 1 or hard rock 2.
Clearly they're looking to win this with the power of anime, Shiba. That's what's happening here.
Oh yeah.
With anime on their side, they can't lose this one, but I mean, Singapore's mechanics players can do bits on a very comfy style aim map. They've made use of it well in the past, and their old school players will certainly be not too fussed about playing in a mod 1 in tournament. But regardless, it's never been a popular choice in recent times. And as you mentioned, Austria's aim players won't be faced one drop by playing this. Wait, I guess it's another one.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, it's a risky one. You know, the only team that willingly picks no mod 1 without the idea of it being coin flip is the UK. Every other team is gladly thinking, look, I pray we win this. Because if usually more often than not it's gamble, it's very risky, but maybe it is the power of God and anime that they're trying to go lean into here. Blessing that Kami-sama will bless them with a good win on this one. It's a map like Hitachi, Jets of Future Difficulty. This is honestly, from what I remember, just the very conventional aim that you would expect from this slot. It doesn't change the fact that it's a very volatile map. Always one of those things where one small, tiny miss error cannot be recovered from. And that's what makes no mod 1s always so risky.
I guess compared to the last no mod 1 we had, the one in group stage, that one was a bit less conventional. Still pretty comfy, but that was highly unpopular in terms of picking because it was very risky, as you mentioned. This one, though, you also said it's much more Route 1, much more what people would be used to playing, which I think does benefit a team like Singapore much more.
Yeah, definitely. If there's any means of comfort that they look to lean into, this is the time. But Austria definitely no slouches on this one. This could be a huge, huge battle. And I think another thing that you have to note is that the accuracies are going to be very, very high on average for everybody. It's not going to be an act battle. It's very much going to be that first drip in the bucket that's going to cause a big ripple effect here in terms of impact. Combo really is the king of the game on maps like these. And although usually it always is, it's more just because everyone's going to have such absurdly high accuracy. Singular misses are going to be colossal mistakes going into this, as the first big spike coming in before the first PI time will be landed by all 8 players except for Z9A, who will be the first blood to drop here in this lobby, as the lead will go into Singapore, but very still in tenuous consequences here, in tenuous circumstances here. as a very big possibility of somebody else slipping out from the opposite side, but it doesn't seem like Singapore are going to be giving in. One more big jump potentially coming in before the end of the first PI time, and it will be all 4 members here of Singapore to hold strong in this first PI, with Z9A still being the only one to struggle. Fruit Cup will join in. Tebby from Singapore will be the first to fall, but that's 2 in favor of 3 for Singapore.
So far so good for them as we get into slightly easier verse. Z9A actually got quite a few breaks in that PI. Not quite aligned, something miscalibrated in his aim perhaps, but he's got time to recover it. Fruit Cup with a few breaks now as well. But at the moment, Singapore looking pretty darn good on this no mode 1 here. Still so much of the map to go.
Yeah, it's still high tensions coming in here. If we see 2 misses from Singapore on these 4 combos, it could lead to disaster. Z10A and Fedora Goose, 2 of the primary star players on this team who are keeping it consistent. Dawnwing will fall, and that's making things very tenuous now for Singaporeans. You've got Sai Mango with a good joining combo for Mikio to help keep this close. But if anyone else misses, it's going to define the fate of the match here. 2 full combos against 2, and the tension's so high. We're only halfway through the map, Doomsday, and I'm on the edge of my seat here.
This is spooky. I think, as it stands, Austria have the advantage. They are reeling in Singapore now as we get into the bridge. The difficulty spike doesn't stop. Here come the streams. Can people hold through this? Everyone holding through that first burst. Those jumps coming in. Fruit Cup gets a break. It's not an FC. It's still... Actually, no, it's with Singapore now. That does actually tilt the favour, I think.
It does. The collective recoveries is going to be matching, if not exceeding, from Z9A. Fedora Goose will fall. That's a big FC gone. That is the breakaway for Singapore that they need. They can't collapse now as the jumps hit the peaks towards the final third of the map here. Much more cross, much more sporadic 1-2s. Tebby falls, but that's not the one combo that you really want to see going down. You've got Z10A desperately hoping for one of these players to go down. Z9 on a good recovery. Saimango asking you shall receive. 1 will fall, but is there enough time going into it? The rest of Austria unable to really do much aside from Z9A on the recovery. As we get into the final quarter of the map towards the very end, maybe a big spike coming in to collapse the rest. But Mikio is trying to keep Z9A at bay as the scoreline is slowly reeling in favor of Austria. If Mikio is to fall soon, this could be over. Z10A needs to hold strong. Z9A on a great backup combo, but even then, Dawnwings will suppress it as much as he can, and that's all that matters after Z10A falls. It's going to be Singapore by what seemed to have been the skin of their teeth to have the power of God and anime on their side. They'll take the point, and they'll get themselves 1 on the board.
Makeo, when they needed him most, he comes out with the goods. 6-100 FC, 99.7. Might as well. I'm going to give him that. That's brilliant. It's another great score as well from Sai Mango, who is having a brilliant match so far. Just a 1 miss near the end. Great attempt from Z10A and Fedora Goose as well for most of that. But Singapore are on the board. The No Mod 1 working out in their favour.
Yeah, what a great score from Mikio here, man. 4 combo, 99.6 and accuracy, like you said, 6-100, that's excellent. Great display of consistency and aim prowess from this player. That's been a huge clutch as well for Singapore, a massive boon at their odds of maybe bringing this back. Granted, it's not your pick anymore, you've got Austria now at the forefront. But it's making the question now whether or not you really want to go into a map like Hard Rock 1 after seeing that aim potential. But I don't think it changes the potential of that definitely being noticeable. Maybe they'll go into the DT3 if they wish to stick with the DT, but it's much more control heavy, not something that you really want to face against a team like Singapore. I think Austria now a little bit tighter options, but not too restricted in a way. You could go Hard Rock 2 if you wanted to. It not being primarily precision, more or less flow aim with a little bit of extra precision being higher CS by 0.59 in general. Very much testing on that flowing potential, which Singapore could definitely capitalize on if that circle size is not too daunting for them.
Certainly could. I still think Austria do have plenty of choices on the board. The Hard Rocks could still be pretty good for them, and the overmodding on non-use does lend credence to that, I suppose, on the Z Brothers. I honestly wouldn't think the reading would be a bad choice, but DT3, honestly, I'm honestly totally okay with this because Austria have destroyed DT3 in the groups, and this is a similar style to that. Bit harder though, of course.
Yeah, no doubt. Ring, ring, ring. Tyler the Creator, Catherine, It's just 3.7 AR, 8.8, so a little bit of density being applied to, but it's a very consistent map too. 3 minutes, 20 seconds long, generally speaking, through and through. The majority of the same patterns always hitting you. But that old control tech does add a little bit of fair point if you are Singapore, if you are Austria. Having that small stint of skill in that control might be a surprising factor that Austria won't expect, but DT, generally speaking, has always been Austria's prime playground, and they always love this control. They've done so well with it in groups, and they've done decent work with it in qualifiers as well. It's more about the specific team they're against now and the momentum that could be built off of this No Mod 1. GS Bank coming in as a big player to look out for. Makia are now looking to extend that momentum for him as well.
See who else comes in here for Singapore. This is certainly something they can do a lot of damage on, that is for sure. It's a bit of a tough pick on paper. I guess it depends whether Austria can recreate some of their previous performances on it.
replay when they might have thought that they were still fine to play regardless of that. Sometimes that can happen and some referees choose to keep that around. That's a completely fine thing for them to do. If it was, because think about it this way, right? If Fedoricus' PC exploded and just well, not exploded, but just stopped working, he would have been able to go on his phone and instantly tell somebody like, hey, it's my PC's broken. And then they could abort it quickly. Some referees do it instantly regardless of it, and others choose to keep the map going at the assumption that that's not the case. But regardless of that, we still take the consideration to look into those rules. And on top of that, we like to sometimes let those maps play around if it's one player who disconnected at the off chance that they do have a local score that they can use to win. So it comes as a double-edged sword, but it's not something that we're completely against referees doing. It's a completely normal thing for them to choose to do. And it's very much at the courtesy and respect of the teams' time if there is that odd occasion of them having that score available so we don't have to replay it. But unfortunately for this scenario, it wasn't the case, and we are going to have to replay it. But regardless of that, we're going to be able to hear it this time in full force with Fedoricus in the lobby. Sorry for keeping you guys waiting for so long, but we're back in. Ring, ring, ring. It's time to play DT3. It's full,
here we go.
Boosted fashion as well.
Now everyone's in the lobby. Let's see how we go. It's a very consistent map on the difficulty. Doesn't really have a breakpoint in it. It's always fairly relentless with these ult burst patterns, snappy aim patterns all over.
Yeah, especially with, despite it being so consistent, these patterns are so sporadic and so volatile. It's really difficult to keep the consistency up intact, as Hollanese and Mikio will be falling to Singapore. As Austria holding on to a 4-way to start. This map really, really short too, so any of these significant combos past the halfway mark will really matter going into it. But those misses from Singapore early enough to still be really valuable. A double missed there from Austria, though. Fedoricus and Akuma no Tenchi will fall. No, Bancho from Akuma. Only Fedoricus to have fallen, so it's a 3-way FC still in favor of Austria, as Hollanese will fall. 2 FCs here for Singapore, still making this tenuous and very, very close.
I think Mikeo dropped their recovery as well, so it's 2 FC to 3 now with no other recoveries. Still looking pretty good here for Austria. There goes Z10A, though. Halfway as well. That's not a great place to get one miss. It is slightly with Singapore now.
For the halfway mark too, that's going to really sting. Singapore might be able to bring this back. Dornwin GS Blank holding strong with these 2 full combos. Making this really, really close. But as we get into the next guy time, more and more difficult patterns to be thrown at you. Dawnwing, Z9A, and Z10 Evoke down. It's a one-on-one with the full combos. And it's GS Blank to drop. And that's given Austria a big layer of security. Akuma no Tenchi holding strong during that big spike. And now he's got a lot of time to build that free combo and extend that lead further and further. With Fedoricus behind his back with the recovery. With Singapore with barely anything to fight with. Hollanese with 500 combo. Dawnwin with bordering 200. But it's nothing compared to Akuma no Tenchi's colossal score difference here. That's going to push Austria to a significant lead.
Well, it looks like Akuma no Tenchi's going to pick up where his teammate left off with that last run. Over 1 million now and still going. It is a full combo from Akuma no Tenchi. That is huge. And that is a win. Score. And there is no doubt there. That is an Austrian point.
Without a doubt. What a brilliant score from Akuma no Tenchi, man. Last time getting about 700k or so, from what I remember. Getting close to nearly doubling that score to a 1.12 million with such brilliant accuracy for a map as difficult as this is so impressive. What a fantastic score from Akuma no Tenchi. And with that, I mean, at least now this time with Fedoricus' score, you can see Austria still being able to 1v3. So that's a plus you can add to that too.
Yeah, and these guys on DT3 ain't no joke, man. They've done so well on it, especially in the last stages, the groups and this one. That DT ult control has been something they have been able to do a lot of damage on, but getting something a bit more flow aimy, but also kind of ulty as well. Liar Dancer, free mod 3. Singapore going to be betting their chips on this one to stay in the tournament.
Yeah, although this map is pretty simple with the general statistics of it being CS4 AR 9.5, generally comfort mod, it's still brutal in its mapping style. Really difficult circle tech aim control that can really sting, especially with some sporadic cross patterns on top of that, with some scary sliders. It's not an easy map to play around in, especially on the hard rock. If you're rocking hard rock on this map, you are a big, big challenger and a player that can really make or break, almost expected to fail on a map like this. But for Austria especially, Hard Rock Overmod, it might be something they choose to take the risk on.
I mean, I feel like overmodding on this, I mean, there is room for it, but it is tricky. I mean, the AR is fairly high, AR 9.5. Does lend credence to, like, hidden preference players, just chucking a hidden on it for the hell of it. Get the score, get the comfort, that's fine. But, yeah, Hard Rock's pretty hard on this, as you mentioned. So, Hard Rock overmodding is brave. We have seen it so far this weekend. I don't think we're going to see it here, though. I don't think you want to take any unnecessary risks with that, especially when you have strong no-mod players that will be more than happy to just take the lower difficulty and just try and keep consistent.
No, definitely agreed. I think consistency is the name of the game for Singapore. Team-wide consistency really matters. They've had a bit of a rocky start so far, almost always having 1 or 2 players be the super carry, and the rest struggle quite a bit. That's where things need to change here. But there's going to be GS Blank, Psy Mango, Eagle, and I believe I saw a 4th there for Singapore, but Z9A is hogging the slot. You're on the wrong team. Go join your brother. There we go. Thank you.
He's going to cross the pond.
There we go. Dawnwing is the 4th member for Singapore. Did a great job on the DT3 just now, which is a similar type of control, but not nearly as fast-paced. Very much more flowy and sporadic. This is such a banger as well, I have to say. Probably one of my favorite maps in this pool. Such a
This song has really grown on me as well. As I've looked at it, it's really grown on me. What about the mods though? Because there's no Mikhail and no astronaut for Singapore, but it looks like Eagle will be taking the hidden for them. GS Blank on that Hard Rock.
Oh, that's so risky. I know usually you would want somebody who's good on Hard Rock to play it, but GS Blank being such an invaluable player, you would hope maybe he'd be on that more consistent no mod and guarantee himself a much higher score. It seems like GS Blank comfortable enough to go into this without an ounce of fear as we get into Liar Dancer. Do or die straights for Singapore. Very capable of taking this map down, but Austria have shown great prominence. A double hidden overmod coming in for Austria. Fedorigos and Tomodoy on this hidden. Tomodoy having a struggle start, however. C9A alone on this Hard Rock. C10A being the consistent player looking to get that max combo value. Singapore only having one from Eagle to fall down. Aside from that, pretty solid from them so far.
9A drops though for Austria on that Hard Rock, finding a couple breaks there. So the lead is with Singapore. 2 of those FCs sitting on the no mods as well. But the Hard Rock FC stands for GS Blank so far in these early runnings. It's just a hidden Singapore dropping.
Only one falling, still 3 FCs for Singapore. Lead staying in the favour as we get into first GI time. Z10A and Fedorigos holding their combos. Tomodoy struggling. 3 members of Austria to collapse here. It is just nobody from Singapore. It is a slaughter coming into this on this first GI time. Still a chance for a slip up towards the very ending. Big starter patterns there. Not going to lead up to any of this from Singapore. Seems like they're going to be fully in control as Austria only able to look up to the score of Fedorigos to be their saving grace. Tomodoy falls again, and it's still a 3-way full combo from Singapore.
There's only so much the captain can do, even on that hidden. They're trying to do the job here for Austria, but Singapore so far looking so good on this. Get them on that control, and they've looked great this tournament, and when they absolutely need a performance right now, they are giving us that performance. This is brilliant so far from them.
GS Blank especially. How on earth can you consistently hold on to these patterns? Oh, my bad. Moving on. Dawnwing still holding on. Simanga with an FC, so it's still going to be pretty good. Oh, come on, man. Please. Please, guys. Come on.
It is the chorus, though. And there goes Dawnwing. Hang on. Hang on. The 3 FCs are down for Singapore. There's 250k, and there's recoveries on the side of Austria.
Oh my god, it is shrinking so much. Oh my god, it is shrinking so much. I don't want to say his name. I don't want to say his name, guys. I don't want to say it. Z9A with a good score as well to back up the guy. The guy.
Eagle broke as well. Oh no, there's nothing left on Singapore.
No, come on. Guys.
This is the diff spike though. Like, everyone in Austria is hitting the diff spike.
Z9A? Oh my goodness, Z9A. How are you hitting all of this? And the other guy, the other guy, it's the flip. Austria got the... There is no way this is happening right now. What an absurd return to form from Austria. He went from done and dusted to a response, a little smile there from Fedora Goose as he sees the score difference. He sees the flip. The hard work's paid off. His team is back to join him in the run to bring the returning punch as a response to Singapore's Hail Mary at the beginning. Maybe some bad juju from the commentators on the side as well, but we'll ignore that as Z9A is popping off on this section. Hard Rock on a map like this is so brutal, and just a minor slider break from Z9A to lose that combo. Can't even blame him on a map like this, but that is the return from Austria to make it 5-1 against Singapore. Cannot believe that's the way it ends, Doomsday.
Yeah, I mean, we're like, oh no, dude, Fedora Goose can't do it on his own, but I mean, this guy rallied the troops, man.
He EFC'd the map. He EFC'd the whole map. 98.5 at accuracy. It's an insane score from Fedora Goose. And great credit to Z9A as well. Like, with Hard Rock, this map is brutal. GS Blank was putting up an insane score until he cursed for unknown reasons, but it is an amazing score from the Hard Rock players here from both teams. But Fedora Goose's FC, alongside the backing combos, alongside the inconsistent collapse of Singapore, leads to Austria securing that win in pretty dominant fashion, 5-1 for the team on one of the biggest Cinderella stories in World Cup history. It's just the beginning here of their line. Still up in that bracket stage in winner's side. Now soon to be facing an even more daunting opponent soon, from what I know.
Yeah, I think they're still waiting on that result, but I believe... Oh, no, they're not. Austria are going up against Chile.
Yeah. They're third. I thought third in the group, aren't they? My bad. Not in winner's side. Oh, still, though, I mean, going up against Chile, that's a very scary team to be facing. And one of the highest performing teams in that group stage, too.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it about Austria's glow up this year. I mean, it's still going. I believe with this result, they've matched their best performance for the last 6 years. And of course, if they go on to defeat Chile in the next matchup, they can best that. But that is to be seen later on.